This is the College Football Connection podcast with Marty Jenkins and Alvin Reid on 101 ESPN.
We've had Separation Saturday. We've had Mayor's Cup heartbreak. We don't quite have the third installment of the CFP rankings to come. We do think that we have a heck of a Week 13 installment for you on the College Football Connection, only on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Bradford Bruns, my man Alvin Reid. Marty Jenkins not in the house in this particular instance, but rest assured, we will have his picks, and we are going to be unveiling them shortly. Alvin, though, my man, I have to tell you, I know for a fact that you are still high on cloud nine. I don't know if you need another means of transportation to get to Arrowhead Stadium this week and just ride that cloud.
I'm still flying high. One, because I picked it, and I think that we're playing good enough football that we could take Colorado.
Yeah.
I just got an email, by the way. It's a let's pack the stadium email. Official, KU website and whatnot. Let's pack the stadium.
You know it.
It's going to be something else on Saturday afternoon. Colorado can punch their ticket pretty much into the Big 12 championship game. All the talk, all the Heisman. Deion says today, I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, no.
To assure the fans that, hey, I'm not – I don't think anybody wants to coach Dallas Cowboys right now. Man, it's going to be something else. And I think that we'll get to it, but I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
It's going to be a raucous environment, no doubt about it, as if the pro side of things hasn't experienced enough of that in 2024. But KU and Colorado definitely on our ledger. We're going to have a 5-pack of picks for you in this particular instance. We begin, though, Alvin, as we must, with another top 5 Big Ten showdown, right? At last check, at least, because we're still waiting as we record here on Tuesday evening, the CFP rankings number 3 coming out in an hour-ish, but entering this week, Indiana all the way up to number 5 for those particular rankings. The first 10-0 start has never happened in Hoosier football history. Kurt Cignetti rewarded handsomely. For as much, but now you're visiting the shoe. It's Ohio State. It is a matchup right now in which, for the 11 a.m. kickoff, because that's pretty much all they do in Columbus, the Buckeyes favored right now by 13.5. But Indiana not necessarily smarting a bit after that last performance versus Michigan, but also recognizing, I think, especially in the second half, things to clean up and needing to clean them up in a hurry against the athleticism of the OSU defense.
Well, I think, one, all right, play zone defense against them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's be honest. I think that they got a little, cocky against Michigan. Oh, Michigan can't pay. All right, we're not that yet on defense.
No.
So let's zone them up, keep them in front of us, make some tackles. Let's not turn over the football. Let's not put ourselves in situations where, we're helping out Ohio State whatsoever. I do think Indiana could still move the football on Ohio State. Ohio State has got a great defense, but it hasn't been lights out.
No.
It hasn't been just like teams coming away with 3 and 7 points at the end of the game. I think you could score enough points to stay in the game. I don't know that Indiana can go there. I don't know that Indiana can go to Columbus and win the football game, but I really do think they could stay within 13.5 points. I mean, that's another one of those classic, you're down 20 points and you score a touchdown late and you're only down 13. But I think Indiana makes this a game. I don't think Indiana could win 10 games. I don't think Indiana could do what they have done with smoke and mirrors. I think they're a pretty good football team. I think they execute well. I think that they have done the things that you need to do. When we have to get 3 yards, we can run the ball and get 3 yards. We don't have to pass.
Right.
We can run our offense and do things. When we need to get a stop, we've been able to get a stop on defense. I think they could carry enough of that through. And once again, God bless Ohio State, but boy, they get jeffed up a lot.
There's still something missing.
There's
something missing.
I'll turn it over to you. I'm the same way.
The it factor, right?
Right. There's just something about them that, I don't know. Right? It's almost like if Michigan was any good this year, Michigan could probably beat them again.
Mm-hmm.
If Michigan had the game, I think the game is in Columbus this year. It's like if Michigan had the game
next week
in Ann Arbor, it's almost like you'd be thinking like, man, Michigan might be able to do it again.
Let me tell you this. For Ohio State, despite, with the exception, of course, of Penn State a couple of weeks ago, now the schedule, the strength of schedule, it's ramping up in the back half of the schedule. But to have this number at 13.5 against an undefeated Indiana team, I understand that you are entering the lair in Columbus, that you are traveling to the shoe. But for it to be at 13.5, given the mammoth effectiveness of the Indiana offense and defense, all phases of the game for the Hoosiers, for it to be at that number, I think is almost patently disrespectful to how good Indiana has been. All you need to say, look at the scoring margin, plus 301.
Mm-hmm.
Week number 13 of the season, plus 301, far and away the best in the nation. And I understand that after jumping out to it was a 17-3 advantage over Michigan at the half. The offense a bit more stagnant, but you also had Rourke working his way back as well from the minor injury. And this Indiana offense, though, for the better part of the season, Alvin, it has been clicking on all cylinders. You mentioned, of course, the running component, too. It's not just about Rourke being able to air it out with the utmost regularity. Now, that secondary for OSU is another beast altogether.
Right.
But what gives me pause here as I look at the over-under figure, too, of 51.5, I think about how, despite how good Will Howard has been, and since the beginning of October, think about just how awesome he has been. We talk about the quarterbacks here in this game, 16 TDs to 4 interceptions since the beginning of October. He's been tremendous, but you're not always getting that from the twin monsters coming out of the backfield. With Judkins from week to week, he may go off to the tune of a couple of touchdowns. He may be stuffed for below 3 yards per carry. Henderson has actually been more viable and effective on a consistent basis. I know they like to use both of those guys. At the point of attack, Indiana, we did notice, versus the Wolverines most recently, and yes, you do have the bye week, the open week with which to prepare. The offensive line, and a bit more, I'm not going to say, but shambles, more injury riddled. You can't afford to have any lapses in integrity up front or cohesion against Ohio State. I do worry because you finally saw some of the chinks in the armor in that regard for IU. That's why it was so close against Michigan, I think.
Absolutely. Now, I will say that all right, IU, take advantage of Will Howard when Will Howard does his Will Howard thing, maybe once or twice a game and throws the ball right to you. Make sure you catch it.
Yeah.
All right. And, I think people look at the Ohio State-Oregon game and say, like, hey, look, maybe if Will Howard doesn't,
fair.
Yeah, maybe they could have won that game. But at the same time, I'm thinking that, well, okay, are you the guy? All right? Because Will Howard, Indiana is coming to win the football game. All right? And this might be the biggest test that you have had so far, regardless of Penn State game. You're going to have to play at a pretty high level. If for some reason, Will Howard does not play a B plus, A minus, A game for whatever reason, then I think that's the opening to the door that Indiana needs to really, really raise hell.
He's going to have to win the game.
Yeah.
It's not about the backs.
Yeah, right.
They're
I
complementary.
kind of feel like that. And I think Indiana could score points. Now, I will tell you that if Indiana gets the ball, drives the ball, even if they end up with a field goal, they just proved to themselves that we belong here. One drive, I think, right off the top. And if they just get the ball and drive down and score a touchdown, then I think it's really, really on. Because then they won't be worried about not scoring points.
And it's a more than plausible scenario because even in the last couple of weeks, think about it with OSU, Purdue, and Northwestern. Last couple of weeks, it has been a pattern for this team to essentially play with its food for a while, right? You didn't even score until into the second quarter at Wrigley Field a few days ago.
Right, exactly. And I will tell you this, too, and I know this for a fact, for being out there in that field for all those many, many, many practices, and it's probably more prevalent now than it was even back then. Indiana got to the point where they were in that Michigan game, and they were saying, like, you know what, we have to win this game against Michigan. But we don't have to show what we got for Ohio State.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying that something will come out of that, especially on offense, I think, that Ohio State has not seen. And they have to be prepared for that. I don't know that Ohio State feels the same way about Indiana. I think they still are under the belief that we're better than Indiana. we're going to beat Indiana with what we have done all the rest of this season.
It's a highly inventive, creative offense as executed, as envisioned by Cignetti. Give him all of the credit, all of the powers there for the innovation. And he has the perfect trigger man in Rourke to run exactly what he wants.
Right.
Now, our guy Marty, he's been waiting essentially all season for that other shoe to drop, right, as far as the Hoosiers' fortunes. But right here, right now, he likes Indiana at the very least to win against the spread. And he is messing with that over-under, unlike yours truly. It's at 51.5. He's going under. He is picking Indiana also to win against the spread. Now, the line has shifted. It has fluctuated a bit. And as a result, right now we're not into the higher teens, which would be even more absurd, frankly.
Right.
But if you're asking me whether Ohio State at home can win, albeit barely by 2 tutties, I think that can be the case.
Okay.
I really do. Ramping it up just because of how good Howard has been of late. He is going to shoulder the load in this one, and I think exposed to some degree a bit of a vulnerable Hoosier secondary. The dream comes crashing down as far as an undefeated season is concerned, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form, unless this one takes the form of a blowout, and I don't see that happening one way or another, Indiana should remain firmly entrenched in the CFP conversation.
I was just going to ask you that. I said, like,
entrenched.
Right, yeah, entrenched. Let's say, but they lose by 3 touchdowns?
No.
What happens? They're on the outside looking in?
That SEC bias is going to take over.
Boy, I'm going to tell you. I know. But now the Big Ten can make the claim that we're as good as you are as far as conference is concerned, and that might save Indiana.
Fair enough.
That because you can't. Everybody was upset last week with Georgia, and Big Ten had all these teams in here, but that doesn't mean you can kick a team out of the Big Ten because it lost one game and it's not playing in the Big Ten championship game. Could you? Yeah, I could see that happening. But anyway, I've got Indiana covering in the 13.5. I'm also going to play the under on that one.
Okay.
Only because I think that we're getting a little late in the season, and the ripping and the running it just seemed that line seemed a little high for me. 51.5.
Do you have that weather report for Ohio, by the way?
I have not looked yet. It's a little early.
I don't know what's going on out there.
Midwest around here, it's going to be really nice. Like high 50s and the 60s, no rain. It's going to cool off in the middle of the week, but I don't know about the rest of the world. I did look at the Kansas City weather, so
I don't know what to do out there. See the tongue-in-cheek pro football
attire
today. I don't know what to do.
Well, yesterday, 73 degrees, and today, 68 degrees. They said it won't be as warm as it tomorrow as it was today, and it's 68 degrees outside. This is November.
Later in November. Yeah. Thanksgiving's next week, for crying out loud.
Next week, and it's a late Thanksgiving.
Yes, exactly. I know. I was just reminded of that by the wife the other day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom. When the bottom falls out, it's going to fall out hard, I'm afraid. But we're not there yet.
All right, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. The bottom has clearly not fallen out, though, for the Colorado Buffaloes. And Alvin, let me just absolutely be upfront about this. Just a couple of weeks into the college football campaign this season, you remembered my impassioned plea, basically, against Colorado and all things surrounding that program. I was sick of the manufactured narratives at that stage. I wanted to see results, but interestingly enough, as Colorado has surged, has been absolutely on fire, moving all the way up to number 17 in the last batch of the CFP rankings, more of that talk, bravado, and bluster, it has diminished somewhat from the head coach, even though we do have from earlier today, at least trying to reiterate that the kickstand is down, whatever that means. Anyway, Deion wants to set up shop, or so he claims, in Boulder for the foreseeable future. Yeah. Here's what we know right now. By virtue of last week's result, late Saturday night, did that one actually go into Sunday morning with KU and BYU?
I think we were done by midnight.
It was close either way. It was close either way. KU, unbelievable job of sealing the deal, getting it done against previously undefeated BYU. And as a result, with the Cougars going down, now you have just 3 remaining unbeaten squads in all of FBS play. So it sets up a truly titanic matchup in a lot of different respects, with Colorado going to Kansas or playing at Arrowhead Stadium, and Colorado favored by just 2.5 here. It will be a crazy atmosphere. The over-under, it is a high figure, as you would have anticipated, at 59.5. 2:30 p.m. kickoff, and now Colorado has a golden opportunity insofar as you are tied. You are officially tied in the Big 12 race with BYU at 6-1 apiece, and yet KU, as a result of having knocked off ranked opponents in back-to-back weeks.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure for the first time ever, right? No hyperbole there.
It has happened a few times, right?
A long time.
A long time.
Eons, maybe. But now, Alvin, some things continue to shake out the right way. You continue to get exemplary play from the Daniels and Neal tandem. Baylor's on the schedule next week. You can't look ahead.
No, you can't.
But you're 4-6.
But that's the thing.
And you have a chance.
That we have a chance and got something to really play for.
Yes.
Because coming into it, it was to, just to show against these teams. All right. So you beat Iowa State. All right. Then you go out there and you beat Brigham Young early in the morning, as they say, and whatnot, back Midwest time. And now you're facing Colorado with a chance that if we beat them, we have a chance to go to a bowl game. And I think that's really driving the KU team. I mean, we've been 2 in a row. It has been, I think, one time in the history of the school, KU has been to 3 bowl games in succession. All right? That would really be something, especially after the start they had. I also think that I looked at Colorado, and I thought Utah would play them a better game, and Utah actually jumped on top of them, even in Colorado.
True.
Maybe they didn't have the staying power. I don't know. But they jumped on them. But just, man, Nebraska played at USC this past Saturday, and I was looking at part of that game, and I'm kind of looking like, man, Nebraska kind of like ran over Colorado. And whatever that game plan was, I think Kansas needs to go back and kind of dust off whatever Nebraska did.
Let's replicate that.
They're like, dude, let's just run the ball. Let's keep their offense over there on the sideline, and let's just run the ball. Let's eat up clock. Let's just dominate possession. Let's score touchdowns when we get into the red zone and make them play from behind. And I think that I won't say they'll panic because, my God, they got Travis Hunter. And I mean, my Lord, what do you do with him?
How can he not be the clubhouse favorite
You're right.
for the Heisman?
He won me over.
By a good margin.
Yeah, he won me over.
In my book.
Right. And, Sanders, tremendous quarterback. But he'll turn the ball over. You can get after him. You can still sack him.
At least once or twice. He's going to try to make the hero throw. And
right. Right. And you can sack him. They said that their offensive line is very much improved as to where it was at the beginning of the season, and especially compared to last year.
Sure.
But they still give up sacks. I mean, that's why that's why other teams are in games, because they have drives where they're 3 and out, and it's like 4th down and 27 yards because they've been sacked. So just I think KU can come away with the victory, but Bradford, I have to lean toward Colorado because of Travis Hunter. I really do. I think he's the one guy. If you took that guy off that team, I don't even think they're bowl eligible. No disrespect to Shadur Sanders and the other guys on that team.
Oh, don't worry, they'll face that reality next season.
Yeah, but really, I just think without him, so we got if you can find a way to neutralize him on offense, and he make his plays on defense. I mean, he's going to make his plays. I mean, and quite frankly, I know he wants to play both ways, but if I'm an NFL scout, man, I'm looking at him and saying, like, dude, you're going to play defense.
Solely.
Yeah.
Solely.
Like, I'm sorry.
What's remarkable about it is that we're not even talking about anything remotely resembling a Charles Woodson-esque situation, because this guy is out there for 95 to 97% of the snaps on a game-in and game-out basis.
Yes.
It is remarkable. Nothing short of that. And with what you said as well about Kansas, what it has to do in the sense of playing keep away, honestly, this has to be the Devin Neal hero game to me.
Yeah.
Because Colorado, for crying out loud, and you can gauge and sort of nitpick the level of competition in the Big 12 of late, but when the lowest number that you've put up there on the scoreboard in any of the past 4 games has been 34, Colorado, we talked early in the season about, all right, is there going to be any kind of balance on offense? Honestly, the Buffs haven't needed any balance. They haven't needed it. They have been able to call their own respective shots down the field at will. And here, that's what I do worry about against this secondary. You have to, from the very outset of this contest, establish possession and somehow, some way, keep the Buffs off the field for as long as possible.
Absolutely. And hold them, grab them, bang them.
Whatever.
You get this little 5-yard penalty or whatever, and it's first down. That's fine.
So be it.
Don't let them. Cake and eat it too situation. You want 17-yard drives. Can you do it, Colorado? Can you be patient? Can you take your time? Let's make them have a lot of plays, and let's us run a lot of plays, and let's just, make it a 2-quarter game.
Mm-hmm.
When halftime rolls around, it's like, oh my God, they're so destined for the under in this over/under, and then see what happens in the second half. But look, from where KU was to where KU is now, and I wrote this in my column, this is a game that, Deion Sanders wants. This is a game that KU not playing in a home stadium, just, it's been an odd season.
Yeah.
The early losses, not playing at home, and suddenly the world is watching, and that place is going to have a whole lot of people in it on Saturday, and everybody's going to look around and say, like, okay, we came to Arrowhead, and it obviously was worth it. There were a lot of people at the Iowa State game, but Iowa State always brings a lot of fans, okay? And then, dusted them off, and I don't know if they were stepped behind or whatever, or did KU really wake up? And I think KU really woke up. And I think that's why they were able to go out to BYU and win that football game. They didn't score a lot of points, but I think they are feeling as though we're that team that we were supposed to be earlier this year. And
Exactly.
if they played the damn games back then like they are now.
Well, the past 3 weeks.
That's
Really,
what I'm
the past
saying.
3
Like,
weeks.
listen, if they had been half as good as they have been the last 3 weeks, you win 2 of those 4 games. You beat Arizona State, okay? The Illinois game, I'll give Illinois that one. But you beat Arizona State, and you for damn sure beat UNLV. You got 2 more wins, and instead of being 4-6, you're 6-4.
Pretty exasperating.
It's very exaggerated, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yes.
That's it. I'm not looking back and saying, like, oh, my God, I'm kicking myself because we lost those games, which I am. But I'm not saying the other teams didn't deserve the win. I'm not saying that we can just divorce ourselves from the fact we lost those games.
Sure.
Look, if we were 6-4 and Colorado were coming in with their exact same record, I think KU might even be favored in the game right now. So that's that -2.5. That's kind of based upon how good are you, KU? We're not quite convinced. But at the same time, what is Vegas thinking?
Mm-hmm.
How good are you, Colorado? maybe this is a test that you're going to have to face up to, because we know that other team. I think they know. They're saying, like, I think that KU team is going to hand that ball off and say, like, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run football.
As it should.
As it
Nonstop.
should. All right.
Personally, I'm enlivened by the realization that the relevance of the Big 12 now has been heightened tenfold in the back half of the schedule.
In the back half,
Fortunately,
right.
In the back half.
And it would have helped if we beat Iowa State, all right, and then K-State lost that game to Houston. Now, if K-State doesn't lose the game to Houston, they're right there, all right? And then that mix would even be more, like, man, who's gonna end up, playing in the Big 12 championship game, right? And as it is, you might just have, BYU and Colorado playing in the Big 12 championship game.
Very well could.
Which is fine. But like I said, man, a lot of people are going to be watching that game all around the country.
We know there will be fireworks galore. Our guy Marty expecting as much. He is going with the over in this tilt. I'm shying away from making a pronouncement one way or the other in that capacity. I will, however, if you're saying right now Colorado favored by just 2.5, by a field goal-ish, maybe a pair, I'll go with the Buffaloes minus the points. What's your total prediction here regarding the explosive number of points? How high will we get?
I've got it marked down as the under, okay? Because I'm thinking, like, 28, 30, 28, something like that. You're still coming in on the under. If Colorado were to get away from it and, win by 10, I think it'll be because KU doesn't score as many points as I think they will.
Yeah.
I don't see 45-35, but it could be 45-35. So,
We'd love it.
Right. I mean, I'll be worn out at the end of that 3 hours.
Suffice it to say, no matter what, we're going to see more points in an abundance of those at Arrowhead Stadium rather than whatever is going to transpire in Starkville this weekend.
Yes.
Mizzou, we don't even have to wait for the spoiler in about an hour, Alvin. From number 23, finally tumbling out of any and all rankings by virtue of the 34-30 defeat to South Carolina last Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium. Going to Mississippi State this weekend, and I wasn't shocked by the end result. Now, when the Tigers stormed back from the 21-6 halftime deficit in the manner that they did, not to be able to close the deal defensively after you had been really good in half number one. Let's just be honest about it, though. South Carolina's redshirt freshman quarterback, he's already a problem. Sellers, that is.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to see how he evolves throughout the course of his college career. But now the question becomes, with Mizzou, for all intents and purposes, playing for a later in December bowl, wherever that may be, what degree of enthusiasm, what, to the extent there, what degree of ability and willpower to compete are we going to see on the road in an inevitable letdown-ish scenario? The good news is that you're playing the most decrepit SEC team that I have seen in recent memory.
You're playing a bad team.
And I don't care if the vaunted Bulldogs had a bye week, had an open week to prepare. For poor head coach Levy, it doesn't matter because you can't do anything on either side of the football. And when I looked down and I saw the over-under in this matchup centering on 57.5, I said to myself, how in the world? I honestly don't know if these two teams can sniff 40 because even though for Mizzou, you would have to rip Brady. I don't care what the stakes are the rest of the way. You would have to rip Brady Cook off of the field in order for him to not conclude his college career. He's going to play. He's going to start this game as well.
Yes.
He will get that final nod at home versus Arkansas on November the 30th. But for the offense, to expect the offense to move the ball kind of at will as it did for portions of the third quarter and the fourth quarter against South Carolina, I don't think that will play out in the same way because I don't know about the motivation. I'm not questioning the heart. But when you have your heart pulled out and you finally have arrived at that realization, now this season they did have so much in the way of expectations and aspirations. All of that is over officially.
Yeah.
Who's going to show up Saturday?
Well, I'm telling you, and I don't know if your YouTube camera is showing that Missouri schedule behind you, and I just look at it, and the two losses, which I said like, well, if they're going to lose two games, it would probably be the two games that they lost prior to South Carolina. And, I texted you guys and said said how do you let them drive the field in that limited amount of time?
Wrap it up.
And really just kind of get Civ like no, there weren't miraculous plays. There weren't, dire situations. South Carolina just moved down the field and scored a touchdown and scored it so late there was nothing that you could do about it, which was shocking to me. And I'm with you. How do they respond? I mean, your star quarterback and your star player make a star play, and you got the lead, and you got the win. And the place is quiet, But a couple of first downs later, the South Carolina fans are back in it. And, it's just like, I really don't know how that happened. And can I just throw a little aside
Please.
out there? South Carolina's coach, I wanted to say, if I had a little hotline to him, I said,
you read my mind, by the way.
You're not playing 2001 Miami Hurricanes now. Come on. God bless Missouri, but fourth down in your own zone, especially the first one was really bad because you were on their side, on Missouri's side of 50-yard line. You just, punt. This is where execution comes in. We're going to punt. Punter, you're going to put them inside the 10-yard line. Defense, you're going to stop them, and they're going to have to punt, and we'll get the ball right back where we are, and then we'll just drive down, score a touchdown, and pretty much take control of this game.
Twice in quarter three. Twice in quarter three.
And I didn't get that one. I just didn't get that at all. You kind of let Missouri back in the game, and not Missouri got themselves back in the game, but you gave them the opportunity to all of a sudden start thinking, okay, yeah, we can do this.
Well, especially when you have a red-hot team and a team that has been so good at holding the lead after quarter one.
Yeah.
5-1 entering the game in that setting. It all played out for you. He clearly wanted to get that Eli Drinkwitz, that Mizzou series monkey off of his back. And fortunately, his signal caller got the job done.
Yeah, and he basically, like I say, he almost single-handedly did it himself.
He did.
Now, when they were struggling, Sellers threw some passes that were just awful. And I don't know what happened to him where he must have kind of or whatever. I don't know. It was like, what happened to him? He was the best quarterback in football. for a quarter and a half, and now he looks like, like he almost looked scared.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what was going on. And then when it was all on the line, he looked like that guy that was all SEC again.
They almost beamered it. They tried their best to beamer it.
They tried to beamer it. You're
but
right.
Mizzou,
You're right.
ultimately, just barely, but does fall short in that one, 34-30. Here, favored by 7.5. Alvin, do you think this one can at least get to a double-digit deficit in favor of the Tigers? Is there that juice? Is there that zeal to compete for 4 quarters?
I do. I think Missouri takes care of him. One, because as you said, Mississippi State is just not that good. And so covering the 7.5, I think Mississippi State will be fired up when the game begins. But as soon as Missouri puts a couple touchdowns on them, either first quarter, second quarter, maybe even into the third quarter, then I think Missouri will get it going. Luther Burden, Brady Cook, they're running out of games.
Yeah.
This is their last road game. They come home and play Arkansas. It'll be very, I don't want to say emotional, but I'll tell you what, Arkansas is actually going to show up and play in the game because Arkansas has been in the game against some really, really good teams.
Oh, yeah.
I think they bring their best effort on November the 30th. So I think this will be showcase time.
Yeah.
This will be 4 touchdown passes. Burden, I want to get, at least 2 tutties. I really think that they want to put one on Mississippi State just to show the fans and the world that, A, we're better than a 3-loss team, even though we have 3 losses, and that we can put down a team that is just inferior to ours. So I got Missouri covering. I still got to go with the under, though, because I don't know Mississippi State. I just don't see them scoring very many points.
Candidly, even with a compromised offensive line, Missouri could hand the ball to a healthier Nate Noel on virtually each and every snap,
right?
And it would result in a 2 to 3 touchdown victory.
I agree. I mean, he's good for another 120-130 against Mississippi State.
That's my opinion. And Marty, interestingly enough, not feeling that way, saying the Bulldogs have a little something in the tank to rise up in this setting. That's all right. We'll defer to our guy in that regard. Give me Missouri as well to win by at least a pair of scores, if not 3 or 4. But for that over-under, 57.5, that is a figure. If I were to paraphrase Marty and give you that proverbial lock of the week, go under and go way
I'm under on that one. I saw that one. There was just like, really? Yeah. Because Mississippi State's going to score what? 10, 13 points in this game.
Even though Mississippi State has given up at least 33 to each and every league opponent.
That's what I'm saying. They'll give up 30 plus, and that score is not going to 57.5. No. It's just not.
No.
It's just not.
Let's go potentially from the high end to the much lower end and back to the Big Ten as well as we zoom along for week number 13. College Football Connection, Bradford and Alvin with you on that 101 ESPN YouTube channel and 101ESPN.com. The Illini, a couple of chances left to still, Alvin, get to 9 victories on the campaign, but you're going to have to do so by running through a consecutive pair of road games to conclude the season. It begins at Rutgers this weekend. The Illini right now by just 1, favored by just 1 in a game whose over-under figure is currently tabulated at 47.5. So you have the test looming against Rutgers. You've got Northwestern as well. But even against a somewhat lame Michigan State squad, last week, that victory, it was authoritative, and it showed me a lot insofar as, okay, how was this team going to bounce back after the back-to-back setbacks versus Oregon and then Minnesota? Because the Gophers lost, that really did cause you to wonder, all right, how is this team going to finish the season a la 2022?
Yeah.
Or is there more mental toughness there? And what I saw on the ground in that contest from Josh McCray, Luke Altmaier back through the air, it indicated a lot to me. Rutgers has had a weird, funky season. And this is a road game, so you don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But I'm still feeling the Illini here because there's still so much for which to play.
And Rutgers, they don't draw crowds.
No.
They're still coming to grips with this whole Big Ten thing because they're having a pretty decent season.
Yeah.
But I think Illinois bouncing back from that battering that they took from Minnesota, they showed me a little bit. And I think Illinois goes here and they cover this 1 point. But what are we basically saying? I think Illinois will beat Rutgers on the road in a football game.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, that's it.
That's what it amounts to.
That's so.
For sure.
I think that I just don't see Rutgers really finding this offense that they really haven't had all season long against Illinois. Illinois played decent enough defense. but also Illinois has played. They can play offense. They can do things on offense. That's why that Minnesota game was just kind of baffling to me. I thought that looking back, on the picks we made, I felt like, Minnesota was about where I thought they would be points-wise, but I thought Illinois would score more points than they did.
Exactly.
So that's why I think Illinois goes there and they cover that one. They win the football game. I also now this is the one that I'm just not sure on that over/under. I mean, I think I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because I just don't know on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if Illinois wins 30-20. I don't know if it's 18-17. I just don't have a feel for that one.
Marty, however, is going to be decisive in that department. He is saying pound the under in this contest. He also likes Rutgers straight up for what it's worth there. And I have a hard time playing with the over-under as well. If pressed on that particular issue, I would say, yeah, I'll make it official. That's fine. I'll go under, and I'm definitely taking Illinois here. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Alvin, too, just the topsy-turvy, tumultuous nature of how Rutgers and that schedule has played out this season. Think about it from the first few weeks. You go on the road, you go to Virginia Tech, you record the nice victory there, you even beat Washington, and then it gets strange. Nebraska, which was playing well at that juncture, you lose a nip-and-tuck affair. Wisconsin absolutely dump trucks you.
Right.
And then UCLA, you lost that game
And that's the thing.
home.
Is like, and
USC.
And you're kind of like with UCLA, there's the wins that UCLA has gotten. You're scratching your head because you're thinking like, how did UCLA beat Nebraska in Nebraska? It's kind of like, what? So once again, college football teams, pro football teams, really can't play their A game every week.
No.
And I think that's really showing. I think Rutgers may be one of those teams that, because of facility and because of what they have to work with and because of schedule, that the travel may have taken a little bit more out of them than some of these other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying they were flying like a Cessna, all of them packed into it. But at the same time, I think maybe that played a role in some of that back and forth with their season. But I think Illinois is primed to go there and win. And then, then you take care of Northwestern and you got your, you put together a pretty darn good season.
9 wins. Take that in a heartbeat for this season.
I take that in a heartbeat.
This season, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rutgers.
Absolutely. Now, you got to win both games. And you definitely don't want to go fall flat on your face out here at Rutgers.
Scarlet Knights did knock off Minnesota a couple weeks ago.
They knocked off
what
Minnesota
it's worth.
for what it's worth. I know. That's what I'm saying. That's one reason I can't touch the score. Pressed, I would play the under, but I'm not going to play it on that one because I don't know what you're getting from Rutgers in this game. But I think Illinois, let's put it this way. I think Illinois is better than Rutgers is.
Yes, straight up.
Straight up.
All phases of the game.
Right. So that means you should be able to cover 1 point on the road.
Head coaching, too. 3 points for Bielema.
Yeah.
I'll stick to that.
That's true. That's true.
You ready to get that down the stretch?
Let's blitz it,
Let's
baby.
do it a couple more. All right, here we go. Number 24 at last check. Army undefeated heading to Yankee Stadium to play Notre Dame. Don't forget about that one. The line has shifted considerably. It was 17.5, Alvin, when I checked it a couple of days ago. Now down to 14.5. Over-under of just 44.5. Fighting Irish, you'd be hard-pressed, I think, to find a team that is hotter across the nation really right now. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think Notre Dame stomps them.
Me too.
I'm sorry. I think they put a Navy on Army. I really do, because Notre Dame it's all they got to do now is just close it out. And, as we talked about, I said last week, I think right off the jump here with the 12 teams, Notre Dame's going to be thinking like, man, we need to get in a conference because what are we talking about here? We don't get a bye? Right. We got to play some pretty good football team. I don't care if it's home or not. Like, we got to play, right? And we're playing like this. So I think they really want to, mash these last 2 games.
And
you take care of Army,
everybody.
right? And then you go out there to USC, and it's really hot and pretty. Not hot, but it was beautiful. That Nebraska game, man, the sun was out, and everybody was looking like, man, I bet you Notre Dame will enjoy going out there for that last game of the year, putting one on USC, and heading on into this playoff.
Sure.
Right. Because keep in mind, who's Oregon, Army, undefeated. All of a sudden, you said, like, man, we beat Army. That means there's Oregon and that one loss that we got, it was the Northern Illinois, but there's a whole lot of teams out there that got one loss.
It was an era ago,
Yeah,
basically.
right, exactly.
So
and you
long
feel
ago.
like there's so many teams out there that got one loss that they aren't looking at us like, oh, wow, that's disgraceful that you lost to the Northern Illinois. So like, no, we lost it, after we played Texas A&M on the road. And, right. And what's happened since then?
This is all you have to know. You have to go all the way back to contest number 4 on the campaign to find the last time that Notre Dame failed to eclipse 31 points.
Right.
That's how explosive the offense has been. And it's interesting, too, because really that theme has been able to belie some of the more workmanlike numbers from the quarterback position. Riley Leonard caught a lot of heat, and justifiably so, early on in the campaign. He hasn't exactly been posting 300-yard game after 300-yard game, but the numbers on paper aren't truly doing justice to just how cohesive and in sync this entire offense has been. Marty can't help himself. The number is too big for him. He's a little uncomfortable about that one, so he's saying against the spread, let's go with Army and also under on the point figure. But, Marty, I'm here to tell you, man, seriously, Notre Dame feel confident about Notre Dame taking this one, really winning at least, say, in the 20s, maybe even by about a 30 spot. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. And I'm looking at the over-under. Alvin, honestly, Notre Dame by itself may creep close to 40. Give me the over.
Okay, I'm going to take Notre Dame to cover. I am going to take the under, though.
Okay.
Because this is the best team that Army has played all season. And I don't think, people talk about, so you can't prepare for Army. I'm just like, well, Army has not been able to prepare for anything like Notre Dame.
Air Force and North Texas aren't getting you ready.
But they're just not getting you ready.
For the Golden Domers.
If you look at that schedule, and I would favor Navy to beat Army in the Army-Navy game.
You were also trailing North Texas, by the way, for just a bit.
For a smidgen,
You
right?
were, still.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't, Yankee Stadium, it'll be jam-packed full of Irish fans. I don't care. West Point, that not that far away.
No.
That place is going to be a Notre Dame home game.
It's inevitable.
Well,
We know that.
By the way, it is Notre Dame home game
It
because
is.
it's on NBC.
You know it is.
Yeah.
Primetime kickoff there.
Primetime
Kickoff there. Our last game
All right.
for our 5-pack here as we're going along. We'll give you a bonus pick. What the heck? We'll give you a bonus pick here, actually. Round it out with 6, and that would be a 2:30 in the afternoon kickoff. We have BYU now with the one loss on the schedule, of course, visiting Arizona State. And goodness gracious, don't look now. The Sun Devils certainly have been a more than formidable opponent this particular season. And with BYU over the last couple of weeks, we haven't seen the same sort of offensive production from the quarterback position from Retzloff. And you would know better than anyone from last week. Definitely the balance wasn't there to quite the same extent unless you have a sensational Retzloff-Martin performance in tandem there, quarterback and running back. Can you run with Arizona State? That venue right now. That venue, tickets, Alvin, tickets are going for $250 a pop. The people are ecstatic because they know we have a real chance as well to make something happen down the stretch.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if you want the South Carolina-Missouri game earlier in the season, it was the KU at Arizona State.
Yeah.
Back and forth. KU comes back. They score. All you got to do is hold them. And Arizona State drives down the field and scores a touchdown with 17 seconds left in the game. We had it. And it was gone. Mm-hmm. The exact same thing. Arizona State is formidable at home. They are fired up out there. I'm telling you. They take BYU. They cover 3. And I believe we are definitely going over the 48-5.
I've gone back and forth on this one throughout the abbreviated week so far. But now I'm flipping in favor of Arizona State. I really am, because BYU, it wasn't just a matter of last week versus KU. You saw a less than inspiring performance the week prior as well. If you're saying to me, can Arizona State prevail by just 3? I will say absolutely to that. And the over-under of 48.5, our bonus pick here on the College Football Connection. Let's go into the 50s. Let's make it fun.
I'm the same way. I think I think Arizona first. I think BYU scores more points against Arizona State. Then even though they were at home last week, I think they score more points. But I think Arizona State outscores them. I really do. I just think they're pretty close to selling out games up there, and I think it's BYU had a rough go. We're undefeated. Suddenly we're not undefeated, and suddenly we ain't even in the 12, looking like, oh, okay. I think they ran into a buzzsaw at Arizona State. So I got Arizona State covering the 3. I'm also on the over.
I like a quick mention of the record on the way out before we maybe get a sneak peek into your itinerary as you're getting ready to hit the road in a couple of days. 16-9. That was the record. You and Marty went bananas week number 12. Don't look now. But overall, ladies and gentlemen, we are 176 and 152. So trajectory-wise, Alvin, we are creeping closer to that percentage that we had a season ago.
I want to get there, and like I say, I'm getting back, baby. I heated up late. Here we go.
So in a sense, a couple of weeks ago, I warmed up the seat for you, if you will, out there in the Lawrence area going to Kansas City. Friday, you're heading out.
I'm heading out Friday.
To the venue close. Okay.
And it's interesting that I feel bad because, with the games in Arrowhead, the one thing is that I just don't spend any time in Lawrence. Yeah. And I feel bad for the business owners and some of the restaurant people and things like that. Homecoming, we did a lot during homecoming weekend, even though the game was, in Kansas City. But, we had our golf tournament for K Club was in Lawrence and hung out there. But this time it's just a Kansas City trip. So, man, it's big city, big game. That's what I'm saying. It's got not an NFL feel, but I'm going to put it this way. When I cough up my $65 to be in the main lot at Arrowhead, I know. I'm the same way.
Big one, Elizabeth.
Oh, baby, it's going to be packed. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
The drive for 5. Hey, it's going to be exciting no matter what. Safe travels to you, sir. As always, we appreciate you guys out there watching, listening, consuming our product. Next week, we're going to try to do a holiday production.
Absolutely.
Get Marty back in the house. But for now, good luck with your own respective picks. This has been week number 13 of the College Football Connection. Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns rocking with you only on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel and 101ESPN.com. Until next time.
You've been listening to the College Football Connection podcast with Marty Jenkins and Alvin Reid on 101 ESPN Sports Talk for St. Louis.